We met last Sunday on July 5th in Mumbai, Bandra, St. Loyola's Hall to commemorate the 5th death anniversary of Father Stan Swamy, a Jesuit priest who literally leapt from the confines of his church to work among the Adivasi people. Many of our speakers recalled what Father Stan Swamy still stands for, what he stood for, and the very brutal incarceration that he had to face that finally took his life at the age of 84. One of the aspects I spoke about was that do we as Indians have a sense of history? Because having a sense of history, all people's history would inform us, all Indians, but most especially the most privileged, who have ruled and continue to rule this great land of ours, of the deep-rooted, perpetrated, systemic, coldly carried out injustices and massacres of our working peoples, our lesser powerful, and by the privileged. Our Adivasis have been really subject to the worst injustices. Adivasis, not Vanvasis. And it is for the Adivasis, particularly the Adivasis of Jharkhand, that Father Stan Swamy lived and gave his life in martyrdom and sacrifice. I also spoke about the articles that Father Stan Swamy authored himself for Sabrang India. I read from some of those articles, including one that was authored in 2018 on August 1st, where he said, "I raise my voice for the Adivasis, am I a traitor?" And I recounted some of the questions Father Swamy had raised in that article. I also asked how the state treated Father Stan Swamy. Not just Father Stan Swamy, but continues to treat several political prisoners. I also spoke about how the Father Stan Swamy's brutal death in what was called an institutional murder on July 5th, 2021. Because let's not forget that he was a victim of the COVID-19 deadly virus, died of pathetic prison conditions, non-treatment by the jail authorities, and unfortunately, extreme callousness and venality by the NIA that misrepresented his case before the Bombay High Court. The medical bail application was pending in the Bombay High Court, was vigorously argued by Advocate Mihir Desai and Kritika, his other junior lawyer, but unfortunately he was not given bail in time. Finally, when he was treated at the Holy Family Hospital, it was too late. Father Stan and what he stood for, I think just can't be recalled. It has to be also written about and documented, because he was himself, by the way, a writer and documentalist of high caliber. And we were privileged. We were really privileged in Sabrang India that he regularly wrote for us as a columnist for almost 3 years. And many of his columns were just before, between 2016 to 2018, 19, 20, before his incarceration. He said, "These are the activities that have made me a Deshdrohi, an anti-national, a traitor of the country." He says, this is his article, "Some questions I have raised are as follows. I have questioned the non-implementation of the 5th schedule of the Constitution, Article 244(1), that clearly stipulates that a tribe's advisory council composed solely of members from the Adivasi community will advise the governor and the state about any and everything concerning their protection. I've questioned why the Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas Act 1996 has been ignored, which for the first time recognized that the Adivasi communities in India have had a rich social and cultural tradition. I've questioned the silence of the government on the Samata judgment of 1997 of the Supreme Court. I've questioned the half-hearted action of government on the Forest Rights Act of 2006. I've questioned the inaction of the government to carry out the Supreme Court order on the owner of the land is also the owner of subsoil minerals, and wherein the Supreme Court had said, we are of the opinion that there is nothing in the law which declares that all mineral wealth, subsoil rights vest in the state. On the other hand, the ownership of subsoil mineral wealth should normally follow the ownership of the land unless the owner of the land is deprived of the same by some valid process. Stan says further, I have questioned the reasons why Supreme Court observation is being ignored that mere membership of a banned organization will not make a person a criminal unless he resorts to violence or incites people to violence. I have questioned recent enactment and amendments to the Land Acquisition Act. How did the state treat Father Stan? Today we deal with a completely perverted state, not one that functions by constitutional diktat. I'll first refer to something that happened 1 year, 5 months after Father Stan's death, which was on December 14th, 2022, I think around December 12th or 13th, Washington Post and NDTV broke the story, and the reports that blasted a hole in the NIA's charges against Stan Swamy. The entire investigation that was spearheaded by his legal team here and abroad, which exposed the entire fabricated case that the NIA had put up against Father Stan and many of the Bhima Koregaon accused. For any of those young people who don't really know what Father Stan stood for, please find out more. He was a priest who jumped out of the portals of his church and lived among the people, who worked among tribals, was arrested in the Bhima Koregaon case, a move that had sparked widespread indignation when it happened. So the arrest took place in 2020. Today was the day that we lost Father Stan. We ran, apart from many other groups, even Citizens for Justice and Peace ran a campaign for the release of political prisoners to the Maharashtra CM, but unfortunately nothing was done and the incarceration continued. And then July 5th, 2021, I remember, and I'd like to pay personal tribute, as I said before, to the Jesuit human rights community and advocates like Mihir Desai, who's among us, and Kritika, who just valiantly went hour to the court to try and tell the court that the man is serious. He is on his deathbed and the court needs to act. And there was a sense, after Stan had left us, of some shame with the court, but how did it matter? How did it matter? So we learn with trepidation from Father Stan Swamy's life and death how far the state can go to discredit you, to malign you, to call you a terrorist, and a case is still pending in the Bombay High Court to declare him not a terrorist, not a criminal. We hope that justice continues to be done and is done sooner than later. It's already 5 years since his death to Father Stan Swamy and a host of other political prisoners who are incarcerated, not just in the Bhima Koregaon case, but in the Delhi riot cases in Delhi, in Odisha, Adivasis, in Jharkhand, etc. Seminal work Father Swamy did for the land of Adivasis in Jharkhand. He filed PIL after PIL. There's an extremely important Supreme Court judgment that he was behind, which actually rules that not just the land, but even the minerals below the land belong to the Adivasis. And therefore, it cannot be just mindlessly given through MOUs and contract by the state and corporates. So he made many enemies, but we had amongst us a saint, a priest who leapt from the confines of his church and worked among the people.